Excuse me. Can I quit this podcast? I told Eddie Murphy to stay in college so he'd have something to fall back on. That's a great advice.
Stand-Up Memories is back.
There it was again. That same opening.
Jackie, the Joke Man Martling, and a great special guest, Dan Wilbur, is here. He is an author. He is a stand-up comedian, a comedic author.
That's right.
And I've known him since Thursday.
Way back when. Way back when.
Now, you recently did a story on Jackie, the Joke Man Martling, correct?
I did. I did an interview with Jackie.
Yeah, I can't imagine how you could make that work. Why don't you?
Well, you ask one question, and then he just tells you everything he's ever done in his life.
Yeah, and then it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And we did a book signing for Theodore's Books in Oyster Bay, across the street at the Oyster Bay Brewing Company, and Dan was the moderator, and it was, a bunch of questions, and then a few questions from the audience. Then I signed, I think, 2 books. And it was thrilling, So
Dan, you do humor books.
I do. I wrote a couple funny books. I had a book called How Not to Read, which was based on this blog that I had called Better Book Titles, where I gave funny book covers, like new book covers to old books. So The Great Gatsby was Drink Responsibly, and The Very Hungry Caterpillar is Eat Until You Feel Pretty. It was like a nice,
that's fun
coffee table book. Yeah. And they got real dirty and weird. And then I wrote a self-help book so that you could never read again and still sound smart.
How do you never read again and still sound smart?
Well, I mean, it's easier now than it ever has been, I think, because you can just listen to a podcast and sort of half remember it.
Get the gist of
everything. At a party, and also information doesn't matter anymore. So you can just say stuff. Just be like, Tylenol makes your kids
As a professor
weird.
of history, I'm having a stroke.
Well, you should. This. And then the internet actually replaced Classic Comics Illustrated, right? That's the only novels I read. Now, how long? Dan works at the bookstore.
Yes.
And they said, we have a comedian that works here, and we want him to be the moderator. And I said, well, sure, of course. But I don't know anything. How long have you been at this whole thing?
I officially in August, it'll be 20 years. So
you've been doing stand-up
for
20 years.
20 years. I'm 38. I started the second I got to college. I had started before then. I'd started like hosting open mics and stuff, but I don't count it because the jokes are too cringeworthy to even.
We all have our place where we draw the line in the sand and say, this is where I
That's
started.
when I said, I'm going to do stand-up.
And try to forget everything that happened before.
Yes,
now,
that's right.
where were you?
Where was I when that moment happened?
No, where were you living when you started doing comedy?
I was at Bard College upstate in Annandale on Hudson, where
very artistic college.
That's right, Steely Dan. It's where Chevy Chase was Steely Dan's drummer. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Just a history fact for you.
Wow.
Is that a true story?
Who knows if it's true? I might just be making stuff up.
Was it somebody named that, or
no? It was actually Chevy Chase, and he was there, and he, I think he was a decent drummer. He just his personality was wrong for the band.
Now, where do you perform?
His personality is kind of wrong for the world,
the reality.
Where do you perform now?
I
perform on Long
Island. So on Long Island, I got a show. A lot of my stuff is DIY. Like I do a weekly in Park Slope, Brooklyn. I do a monthly in Huntington at this place called George's, which used to be called Industry, but they changed the name.
Do you know of this? I've never heard of that place. Do you know of it?
I've heard of it.
It's about a block from the Paramount Theater. And then I do Stand Up New York is sort of the place that gives me the most spots. And then I just jump around and do all these bar shows and stuff, which is basically what I've done my entire career.
So you go into the city and work at
Go in the city. QED, which is in Astoria, is really good.
Wow,
they're nice to me.
That's one I've actually worked at.
Yeah. There's good small rooms, big rooms, and I've done, and then I've opened for people.
Do you do the Governors Clubs?
I've done Governors. I've done Governors when my friends are there headlining. So I opened for people that I know from the city.
Yeah.
So you're still having fun. You're loving it.
I'm having a great time.
You're addicted to it, probably.
I'm
like
addicted
we all
to
are.
It. Yeah.
I
Well,
always
you don't
say,
get it. You don't really get addicted until you get that first laugh, and then you're stuck.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten there yet.
Jackie's
It's
looking
been
at-
20 years. 20 years of no laughs. I'm just
Hanging.
waiting for that first pop.
I got to tell you, when you get addicted to stand-up comedy actually becomes better than sex, especially the way I do it.
Jesus.
No, but I'm not.
I was going to laugh,
I don't know.
but I
don't know.
didn't laugh. But it does. It necessarily, because you can do stand-up comedy 2 nights in a row.
Now, Dan, so
my classic joke is I can still do it twice, and my favorite one is the one in the fall. That's my favorite. But that's. Are you married?
I am married. Sorry, Jackie.
And your wife must have a job.
She's got a job. She makes websites. She does, and she's a photographer. That's how we met. She took my headshots when I first moved to New York.
Ah.
you know,
And
you
she-
look way too normal and well-adjusted to be a comedian.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll get her on the phone if you want to, or we'll just go
No,
through
no,
the,
no.
I'm
the
sure she's
text of
got a
our,
laundry list.
our
of-
current,
Right.
our current
Now,
mental
writing comedy,
diagnoses.
writing comedy to be read is
Sure.
totally different than writing for stand-up.
Yes, and I gotta say, I hate written comedy for the most part. The things that make me laugh on paper, and I don't know if this is true for you, are like I read Bukowski's Post Office, that book, or like anytime there's like a very sad man in a book, I'll start laughing. But like a joke on paper, it's not always what I want.
I really enjoyed writing my autobiography, and I wrote enough for actually 2 books, but it's devoid of jokes because it's just
Doesn't work.
the stories.
Right.
The stories wind around and they get good, they get bad, or whatever. But it's more fun to read. If you think somebody's going to the next joke and the next
Right.
joke, you shoot yourself.
Yeah. And, and I don't mind a joke book. I want to say that. Like a joke book is good, and it's good for writing specifically.
But that's what it's intended to be. It's not a regular book
Yes.
that's trying to be
Do
funny.
we
Yes.
know anyone who would know a good
I just
joke?
didn't want to. I didn't
Do
want
we
to.
know anybody who would recommend a good
I didn't want to
joke
mock one person at the table.
book? Do we? Is this
Writing
Well,
career.
have a good time, Phil. Have a good time.
Well,
With your sense of humor, you're probably going to wind up a history professor.
that's hurtful.
Bales is a history
I
professor.
also am a
got
history professor. Now,
This is the only podcast
However-
where
He does the history.
You repeat the information.
I
'Cause
do.
You just
He
told me.
does the history of his resume, which is a very short
Short-
course.
short history,
very
yep,
short
yep, yep.
course.
but I'm sure you've read, for example, the humor articles in the New Yorker.
Oh,
work,
sure.
and they're funny, but it's an entirely different way of doing comedy.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Onion, the New Yorker.
Yes.
Is that I'll read the headline and be like, ha ha, and then I'll go to read the article, and it's so rare that sometimes they knock it out of the park, and every single paragraph has something that's
But
laugh
so
out loud
many
funny.
of those-
But so many you just get the joke, and you're like, all right,
So many of
Move
the
on.
titles are so stellar.
Yeah.
It's almost like they can't follow themselves.
yeah, they can't follow it up. Yeah, the
It's
news in
great.
brief used to be the best part of the Onion because they would do the story itself was just so funny after you read the headline, but doing a whole article is really hard. And the New Yorker, I find the same way. And you're seeing how much I've tried to laugh in print humor.
The
But I
Onion,
read the
You
New
feel
Yorker
like
all the
you're looking
time.
at
and-
Nancy and Sluggo. You know what I mean?
Nancy and Sluggo. I think we have people watching this show who would get that reference.
I got it. I was there.
Nancy and Sluggo. Wow. Now, I
I love jokes. I love jokes about saving rubber for the rationing. That's my kind of joke. I love the World War II.
I think Nancy and Sluggo actually preceded World War II.
I can't remember. There was some. I've read a bunch of Nancy. Isn't that what a great time?
Horrible.
Absolutely.
Horrible.
Now, I got to say this. The
You
Onion.
don't.
The
You don't.
Onion.
You're
You
just
don't have
going
to.
to.
To our audience, we have a lot of young comedians watching. The Onion. Find The Onion.
Yeah.
Read it. They're doing superior work. They're on the cutting edge, and I think part of that is because they are not corporately owned.
They're owned by two guys,
I
two
got a
like hedge
question
fund
for
guys
you.
now.
Yeah.
That they've been around forever.
Yep.
If you took 10 comedians, like the newer guys that are working today or whatever, will they all know what that is?
They'll know The Onion.
Or will 1 out of 10 or 5?
They'll know it. they'll know The Onion for sure. And there was a scary place where they were owned by some corporate entity like Univision or something.
Kind of stifled them a little bit.
Stifled it a little bit, and they bought it back. And now they're doing this crazy stuff like trying to buy InfoWars. They're having fun. I wrote for them for the show on IFC. So that's another thing that was for the TV show. You just got to pitch 25 ideas a week. It was actually really intense.
That's great.
It was cool. It was the best. It was the best month that I had, then I went back to work at a bookstore.
There you go.
It's scary what people know and don't know, because I know we talk about so many things, and Peter has to explain. Well, he was president right during the Civil War. Because people don't know. But then some things just hit you. Like I work with this guy, and I work with him all the time, and he's been around a long time. And this was years ago when the Friars was before it went kaput. And I said, next time you're in New York, I'll take you to the Friars Club. And he's not from New York. He's from, Pennsylvania, but he's a comedian for a long time. And he said, "What's that?"
All right.
And I said, whoa. What do you mean, what's that? You mean you've never been there? He says, "What is it?" And I was like, how could you be in comedy? But why would he know that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I want to ask Dan something. Jackie and I have talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the big dick contest.
Yeah, we're all taking our dicks out.
Yeah.
I'm ready. This is an OnlyFans podcast.
Boy, we were rolling it. And then Jackie, that was on Jackie, and then you picked up on it, and I got to get it back now.
It's called Yes and. I'm just going along with the bed.
Yes,
to take my dick out. I got to do it.
Yes,
he runs improv things. He knows the whole yes and
is a way of living, actually, not just doing improv.
That's right.
Yes and now.
Yes and let's leave.
But Jackie and I want to hear your answer on this.
Yes.
At age 38, you're a different generation. We were both incredibly influenced. I mean, incredibly, not only in comedy but in life, by Mad Magazine.
Right.
Have you gone back and looked at that? Or?
I actually read it when I was a kid. And now
a kid being
like
school
12, I had the little folding.
Right.
They were putting out new Mad Magazine, and I subscribed to it for a time, but I don't remember even, one movie parody or any joke that I saw later in life.
It was a lot of new guys by the time you were reading the magazine.
Yeah, and I go back now. If you in Huntington, just a fun plug. If you go to Rosie's, it's covered in Cracked magazine.
Cracked.
Sometimes they'll have. So I've pulled a bunch of Cracked magazines, and some of it's like, well, I don't really care about this Jaws parody comic, but that's fine. I'm sure this was funny when it happened.
That's a generational thing, man.
Yes.
A guy called me to do his podcast, and I think he said he was the current editor or something. I had no idea that was still going around.
Yeah.
And now there's a little ice cream store in Oyster Bay where a whole wall is all Mad Magazine covers.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, that guy's a Mad Magazine. He's crazy, because I got stuff drawn by Don Martin and stuff. It turns out they're not even that big a fan. They just thought they were very colorful.
They're just cool looking.
Jesus Christmas.
Yeah. No, I know about Mad, and I know about how far back do you want to go? Because I grew up and I was forced to listen to Firesign Theater, which was a Chicago.
Forced by your parents?
Forced by my dad, yes.
Boy.
My dad would make me listen to it before I went to bed, because I wouldn't go to sleep on time, and he didn't want me
watching. He's lucky the state didn't take away his children.
I just learned a lot of jokes about acid and cocaine.
That was pretty cool of your father.
It was cool.
So fun. That was so fun. I might even still be like email buddies with, is it Phil? One of the guys. I mean, they're still around, a billion years later. But in college, getting really stoned or taking acid and listen to Firesign Theater, you were like transformed in another planet. And then you go back 20 years or 30 years later and listen to it, and it's like watching paint dry.
Well, some of it is like the conceit of an album is him just flipping through channels, and like not all the jokes hold up. But I stand by Nick Danger, Third Eye, as a joke a minute, and they're all radio jokes. They're all jokes about how you cannot see what's happening. So the best one when I was a kid is you hear, the woman, Nancy, everyone knew her as Nancy, saying, Nick, wake up. And then he's like, I'm fine. And then she's like, well, then stop slapping me. And that's
when I was a kid,
it's all like misdirection. It's still good. It's
now, is
funny.
that from Don't Crush the Dwarf? Is that?
No, I don't know which album it is,
I
but
didn't
it's
know
from
the albums that well. I just remember.
When I was a kid, I went back. I made it my business to watch Abbott and Costello.
Sure.
And, Laurel and Hardy.
Still good.
And Buster Keaton, I thought was the most amazing of the old time.
Well, they make you watch that in film school.
Okay.
Now.
Good.
So I had no real idea.
What did you major in film? And
I went to Bard.
Bard.
Speaking of pot and drugs, I went to Bard to study film. I fell asleep during every screening. And then was like, I think I'm just gonna read books because that's more my speed.
Were they making you watch comedies or old classic films?
You start with Buster Keaton because Buster Keaton visually is doing these cool things that I just watched. Have you watched The Studio?
Of course.
I'm gonna spoil a part of The Studio without actually spoiling it. There is a very good visual gag where you're looking at something and it looks and Seth Rogen has blended in so well that you miss it. And then when he moves, you're like scared because he's standing right there. That's basically from Buster Keaton's Cops that he appears under like a staircase and you're like, he was so good at just framing everything and using every idea he had, even in like a 10-minute movie, like the one about the house spinning, like that's destroyed, like the money pit, basically. That's like the first thing they show you in film school because he just did everything he could with this silent at the time, black and white image.
It was crazy. There was a great documentary on him by Peter Bogdanovich. It was like so interesting because you think you have an idea about the guy, and of course you have no idea anything about him.
Right.
It's phenomenal stuff.
Have you gone back? For us, it's contemporary, but for you, have you gone back to, for example, Cheech and Chong?
I have not gone back to Cheech and Chong.
Have you gone back to
Jackie
Monty Python?
That. I have gone back to Monty Python, for sure.
So much to learn. A lot of our audience totally relates to these things.
I'll give you a real strange one. Not strange.
I'm still working on Chevy Chase.
Yeah. When I was 18, then there were no podcasts so everyone who's watching this better be taking notes. I'll send you an email with everything we mentioned. There were like 3 books that you could read about stand-up specifically. And one of them, I believe, was Comics Insights, which was interviews with comics. And I think that's how I learned your connection to the 2-bagger joke for Rodney.
I've never heard of that book.
I don't quote me. It could have also been Mike Sachs' book, which is also interviews with but I swear I had read it when I was really young, that I didn't know that Rodney had that sometimes comics would buy jokes, because I only knew the story about Carlin sort of saying I don't buy anybody's jokes. And he said that to, Gary Shandling, I think, when Gary Shandling was like, I just want to write for Carlin. And he was like, no, I don't do that. But Rodney was doing, a joke.
But this deserves
the average person had no idea. So when he came on the Stern Show and we had this big fight about the jokes I had written for him and sold him, everybody was like, no, Rodney Dangerfield does not buy jokes. And then of course Rodney played a little, I don't know anything about buying any jokes. I'm like, you're so full of crap, Rodney.
No, I knew that I had read it. You're the second source. Your memoir was the second source where I found out specifically that 2-bagger, because it's the same that Sarah Silverman said in some documentary, that she's like, one of my best jokes is don't you hate when you're blowing a dentist and he keeps asking you questions? And that's the whole joke. And I think somebody gave it to her. I don't want to misquote this, but I know that people have given jokes to comedians.
Of course. Let's bring the audience on this.
Okay. We should probably. That's what the show is for.
Let's explain before the audience the 2-bagger joke. I'll just give it an intro.
Millions of years ago.
Okay.
People like comedy.
If you like comedy, get my autobiography, The Joke Man, Bow to Stern. It covers a lot of stuff. But I wrote some jokes for Rodney Dangerfield, and when I first sent him a batch, I had gotten a hold of this great joke and sent it to him, and he loved it. And it was one of the ones he bought, and it wound up being one of his signature jokes for his entire life. And she was so ugly, she was known as a 2-bagger. That's a woman that's so ugly. You not only got to put a bag over her head, you got to put a bag over your own head in case her bag rips, which is hysterical. And the first time he used that at Westbury Music Fair, I'm sitting in the audience with my girlfriend. I just about had an orgasm.
But the point is, he did it on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show.
And Carson
and
fell off
literally, Carson reeled back from the desk. That's how much he laughed at that.
Just wonderful.
And it's.
I didn't know it was in another book.
I gotta find it because I tried to look it up for our interview and I couldn't, even though I have the book at home.
But in the book, it's probably listed as the Tennessee two-bagger joke. And
no.
It was Tennessee never made it to any further.
No, it didn't make it to Rodney, but that's where you originally heard the.
I know it was. Right. I just know that I had read it before because it was eye-opening to me that Rodney didn't write all his own jokes.
And meanwhile, you could walk around and catch a rising star, and if you talk to enough comics, you could put together half of his act right there.
I think he paid $50 a joke.
$50 a joke.
That's not bad, actually.
No, it's incredible.
For 1979, geez.
If you're not, especially if you weren't like getting on stage yourself, I would take $50.
That was a gold mine. The first time I sent him stuff cold, blind. He sent me a check for $200, which he bought 4 jokes. And in those days when you're making $30 or $40, when you're lucky enough to work like $200, I felt like I robbed the bank.
Right.
Well, it was $40 for a gig, and don't forget the cheeseburger.
Yeah,
and you got to go. That helped with the.
Not always.
Not always.
You got to go live with him for 2 weeks. That was like my favorite part of the book.
That was
beautiful.
And nobody believes me, but to this day, if I start talking about that, I think of things that I hadn't thought of, that happened, because it was like it was a jam-packed, like when you go on vacation or something like that, so much happens in 2 weeks that it was, just let alone being with somebody who,
And Rodney said to Jackie, we're having a little barbecue, invite some of the comics over for the barbecue. I was one of those comics.
Oh, wow.
And we had a barbecue, and Rodney had a guest there. Google, everybody, if you're older, Louis Nye, a terrific comedian, and
formerly of the Steve Allen Show,
right?
High host Steve Areno,
and another guy there was a partner in Penthouse magazine who had with him a penthouse level model.
Oh wow!
And Rodney and his kids were there, and
that whole thing is in the book. But this is one of the guys.
I was there.
It was actually.
I can vouch for it. I was there.
Okay. That's the secondary source here now. So
I was there. It was a remarkable afternoon. I can tell you that.
I'll tell you just something. I know that you didn't ask this, but the thing that I'm looking into right now specifically, because I thought it was topical, is that I have a book about the Smothers Brothers getting pulled off the air. And I was learning things that I never knew about, like Jack Parr getting censored and doing this hilarious bit where he like quits tearfully and says like, I'm done. This isn't how we should be telling jokes.
Google Jack Parr, P-A-A-R. And Google the Smothers Brothers.
Wait,
go ahead.
It's Jack Parr is the original host of Tonight, and then Steve Allen, and then Carson. Right? I think I got this right.
I think
so. Parr
Steve
gets
Allen before. Okay, we should know this.
Parr gets censored for a joke about toilets.
I just know that. I think it was. I think Parr quit. Whether it was Steve Allen or Jack Parr, when they left the show, they signed Carson, but Carson couldn't do the show for 6 months. So for 6 months, they had revolving different hosts every week.
I think Parr came back then because he had quit and said, like, I'm not doing it this way. And what he says is there's got to be a better way to spend your life than working in showbiz like this. And then he comes back and he goes, so anyway, I looked around and there is not a better job than this. And that's it. And then he opens with, as I was saying. So he was like, he quits and then he comes back and then his opening line is, as I was saying.
Now, have you ever read the Cliff Nesteroff book? Do you know what that is?
I've read The Comedians, but he has two other.
No, but the other ones. Okay, but the one
I'm just trying to plug his new work, man.
Right, the one young and brilliant, but when they had that whole slew of rotating comedians for 6 months, Jerry Lewis had a 2-week slot, and he did so well that they were thinking they made a mistake by having Johnny Carson, and they were already locked into him, and the other networks were fighting for Jerry Lewis. Do you remember reading this? And he bombed so bad. They gave him like $8 million. They completely redid this place at the corner of Hollywood and Vine with gold knobs and JJL everywhere, and did this whole, and he was making so many demands. And he came out the first night and he bombed. Yeah. And he bombed so bad that like that Monday in Variety, he had a whole page that said, "I'm sorry." And it only lasted a couple months. And they're like, what are we going to do with this place? We've just renovated this whole place. So they got this wild idea that they're going to put this show up called Hollywood Palace to just fill in the time slot while they figure something out. And that ran for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was I was literally at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. But that was one of the huge network mistakes ever. But you never hear, it's, good publicist,
Yeah, you never hear about that. Well, I do know about The Day the Clown Cried. So that got out. And that's mostly because Patton Oswalt wrote a book.
If you Google that, Jerry Lewis made a movie about a comic in the Holocaust whose job was to make the children laugh on their way.
I don't mean to laugh. That's not why I'm laughing.
Dan,
laughing because it was a bad idea.
Altogether, what an asshole. But
Dan, you said you were reading up about the Smothers Brothers.
I was just reading a book by Dave Bianculli about the Smothers
show
Brothers.
That affected me emotionally the most, probably in my life. Very young kid still, but wow, that somebody called me to interview me today about Jimmy Kimmel and his situation.
That's
and I said, I'm still not over the cancellation
of
the Smothers Brothers.
Yep.
That was right at the sweet spot. I was a junior in college. And
man, those guys were breaking ground.
Show.
They were anti-establishment.
And they were putting up, so I was listening to, because I'm in tandem listening to the old, like, best of. They're putting people up like Carlin in like 1969. And Carlin's doing bits that I'm like, this is pretty edgy for TV now.
Right. But Richard Lewis, who was seemed like he was from Pluto. But meanwhile, they got Paul Simon and George Harrison. It was just the melting pot of the 60s.
And they were anti-establishment and anti-war. And they were being provocative on purpose, I should say. But wow, what an impact that show that didn't last
ran for like 3 years. I think they were ready to do their fourth.
And Tommy Smothers, like in the last year, passed away. Very sad.
I got to see them speak, and I don't know how old they were, but they were still pretty funny.
Oh, I believe
it was great. And they went to couples counseling. That was the big. They went to couples counseling together to make sure that the duo could last. And I thought that was beautiful.
A true story?
That's true. They said it.
I love that.
They went to couples counseling as if they were married, just so they could make sure
that
Mom always liked you best was their catchphrase.
Yep.
Just
hey, I'm getting a signal here. What a pleasure. I mean, you are
the entire history of comedy in 30 minutes.
But I mean, you really know your comedy. You know your history of comedy.
Well, hell yeah.
You're a comedy writer. Dan Wilbur, who is an author, a comedy author, and a stand-up comedian. Let's remember that name, Dan Wilbur. We got to have you back because I could talk forever about the history of comedy,
about all this,
and all of this, and what you, an earlier generation from me, what you're into.
Yeah, one day I hope all of that knowledge makes me funny. So one day,
you're doing fun.
Final question, and I hate this. It's almost like, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh yeah,
who's your favorite? I want to ask you, who's your favorite comedian of all time?
He will think that I'm kissing his ass because we've worked together, but Patton Oswalt is my number one. The old Patton Oswalt, new Patton Oswalt, they're all, and all the albums in between. He's got like a very clear point of view.
I have to honestly say that my favorite comedian of all time is Jackie.
Oh, I meant to say Jackie the Joke Man.
Mason.
See, I know him. I know him. And I know that's a lie because you're such a raving anti-Semite.
Hey, we are at
Patton Oswalt's great. We got to go.
We are at Paradise Studios in Massapequa. Let's give them a good, honest to goodness.
Stop by Theodore Books and in Oyster Bay and say hello to Dan.
I'm there.
Paradise Studios, anything video, anything podcast. They have a massive facility here with different studios, perfect for everybody.
Teenagers are
and
fighting
our
outside.
network where you can watch us, Strong Island Television, which is connected to Paradise Studios, and lots of great shows on there.
Check out The Better Sister on Amazon Prime. I'm on for 10 seconds, so do not take a leak during any of the 8 episodes. And go to jokeland.com and come see a show. And me and Bales work together very often, and maybe now Dan will bump him the hell out of the way so I don't have to listen
so
right.
to his same
get
act
some
since
young blood in
1978.
we met, and the president was Jimmy Carter.
Thank you.
Hey, we'll see you next time.
You weren't even
Hi, guys.
exaggerating.
It's not exaggerating. Stand-up memories next time. See ya, everybody.
See ya.